Welcome back to the journey to the FarLands. All right. Yeah, it's been way too long since I've done this, so let's see about getting out of here. And let's see. I'm going to need to go that way. First, however, I should do something about blocking this. Yeah. All right. Now get to moving onward. And let's see. Oh boy, it figures. I start to record and there is some kind of a high-powered jet aircraft flying overhead, making all kinds of freaking noise. Beautiful. Well, anywho, let's get the basic stuff and things going on here. Let me have a look. Okay, the size of the world here is 6,778.7 megabytes. This is the morning of the 559th day since leaving spawn, or Minecraft day that is. And we are traveling onwards. And yeah, it's really good to be getting going with this again. So let me grab a boat. And get moving onwards here, journeying on to the FarLands, because it's been way too long since I've done anything with this. And now I have the time, I have my desktop computer up and running again, which means I have the ability, and I'm feeling good, feeling better than I have in a long time. And yeah, so all of that basically adds up to, hey, let's do this. And now I have the internet capacity, the internet capability. Come on. To actually render this thing with a really high bit rate. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm going to double the bit rate that I have used for years. And I think that all by itself is going to do a whole lot of good for the video quality. Now in the background, in the sound, you're going to probably notice two things. Number one, there is a bit of a wind noise coming from the ceiling fan in this room. And that's kind of unavoidable. It has gotten hot enough this afternoon that I kind of need that on. It's on lowest speed setting, or at least what I think is the lowest speed setting, because there doesn't seem to be any other speeds. It's got, you know, basically run like crazy and off. And so there is that bit of sound that you may be hearing. And then there is also the fact that this room has bare walls, a mostly bare floor, and it does have a certain amount of echo involved. And that's going to take a little bit of time to get to where I could do something to change that. Shut up, gal. Nobody wants to hear you. You do not have permission to exist. No. Absolutely not. Oh man, it is so good to be doing this again. To be making videos. I made a Hermitcraft episode earlier today. In fact, it was the first thing I did after getting the internet reinstalled. You know, the guy from AT&T was here and did this wonderful job of installing the internet, which, as I found out, is not just a DSL or anything like that. What has been installed here is fiber. And that is awesome. Uploaded a new video, that new Hermitcraft earlier, just a little while ago. And it was just under 1.9 gigabytes in size. and it took like a little less than 15 minutes to upload. Awesome! So higher video quality, higher bit rates are now a thing. You know, I've been saying for years that that's the reason that internet speed was the reason that I've used less than optimal bit rates in my rendering of videos. Well, that changes today. It has changed today. And much higher video quality should be forthwith and evident and so on and so forth. And I'm totally thrilled about this. This is awesome. This is what internet is supposed to be like. You know, instead of clicking on a page and waiting 17 minutes and 2 cups of coffee for it to load, you click on a page and it loads before you could reach for the coffee. Which is both good and bad, because you shouldn't let anything get between you and your coffee. Ever. That's like a really bad thing to do. Yeah. But I am just loving this, and it's great. And some folks will no doubt be asking, well, where's this new God tier machine that the Hermits gave you? Well, it's right here. It's sitting on the floor, not 3 feet from me. And I will be making use of it. I will get it all set up and using and so on and so forthing. But I needed to get my old main desktop machine going first, because this machine is where all my stuff is. And so, you know, it had to come first. Plus, I'm comfortable with it, and so on and so forth. I'll get there. I will get to be using that other machine. I will. But I'm not going to stress about it. I'll get to it when I get to it. And so on. Right now, I am just so glad to be at a place that I now call home. You know, because when I left my house on the 19th of March, I left my house and I went to the doctor's office because of a problem I had on my right foot. And it didn't take long for them to have me on the way to Batesville in an ambulance to get part of my right leg removed because it was dead. That's the reason you remove part of a leg or something like that. It's because the part you're cutting off is dead. And if you don't cut it off, the dead will spread to the rest of you. And you don't want that. You know, the spreading of dead to the rest of you this is a really bad thing. So you don't let that happen. And even if it means cutting part of yourself off, or ideally having a skilled surgical team with anesthesiologists and so on and so forth doing the job, so that not only can that be taken care of, but you can live through the surgery. You imagine doing the surgery yourself? No thank you. That would be a real uglification. But yeah, got that taken care of, and then after that, it was like 4 weeks in the hospital there. Getting out of the hospital, there was a stop at the house to pick up some things, but it was only some stuff. But it was just, you know, it was some really gotta have stuff. And then proceed on to Oklahoma, where I was living with Holly, one of my sisters. And that was great. And then during the 2 weeks I was there, I managed to have a couple of falls. And let me tell you something. just because you've had part of your leg removed, like just because my right foot is gone, does not mean that my 60 plus years old reflexes about the use of that foot, those reflexes are still there and they still work very good. And yeah. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. No. Oh, come on. I forgot to crouch while I was doing that. Wait. Oh, I wasn't on the shift key. The one that I was trying to shift was actually the caps lock, and that's nasty ugly. All right, now let's get this sleep done with. And so anyway, I had a couple of falls, and well, 3 times I fell. And the way I fell was truly vile and evil and painful. It kind of redefined the definition of pain, because when I fell, I automatically moved my right leg to catch myself. And in a matter of speaking, I did catch myself with my right leg. And the way that worked was my right leg, specifically the end of the stump, hit the ground or the floor or whatever it was I was falling into. And well, the first time I was outside the house, because the house's design was, I couldn't get a wheelchair in there. So I had to wait outside and tell people what to grab. And I had decided I was going to try and maneuver with crutches. And there's more to that than it looks like, guarantee you, because I failed miserably. And that's why I fell. And that's why my right leg moved out in front of me to try and catch myself. And instead of, oh, well, I caught myself, but I landed flat smack on the end of that stump. And I guarantee you that completely redefines in very explicit, horrifying detail the definition of pain. You don't ever want to do that. I guarantee you. I don't even care if you're a masochist. You still don't want to do that. That hurts beyond all definition. Oh. So then a few days later, I had another fall incident. Again, automatically tried to catch myself. And that hurt. Now each of these falls, the first 2 falls, did actually reopen things a little bit, and it started bleeding again, which it really shouldn't have been doing. And so there was all kinds of fun and stuff with that. And then the third time I went to do something, the third time was different. I had actually thought it through and planned it out what I was going to do. And what I was going to do is exactly what the physical therapy folks told me that they should be doing. I was going to be in a good position, a good place to do it at, where I had about 6 feet of floor in front of me. The objective was to get up from the wheelchair and then use the walker to hop walk forward about 6 feet. And then wait for the wheelchair to be brought up behind me so that I could then sit back down in the wheelchair and go back to the starting point and do it again. That's what I was planning to do. That's what the whole reason I was going to do that in the beginning. I got up, I started the thing, I got 2 hops in, and the walker became shaky. it started shaking and got kind of rickety, you know, and that caused me to try to overcompensate. I tried to compensate for it, and the problem is I overcompensated. And then all of a sudden I knew I was going to fall. You can tell. You reach a certain point, you know the fall is going to happen, and then there's no stopping it. And so I tried to twist myself around so that I wouldn't land on my leg this time. Well, I was partly successful. Instead of landing on my leg, I landed smack on my tailbone. And yeah, more pain, different place. And in addition to landing on my tailbone, while I didn't land smack on the leg, I did hit it. It did hit something. And not only was that more hurt, this last fall took place 2 days after I had had the stitches removed, because it was time to have them removed. After 3 weeks, you got to have those stitches out, because if you don't, the skin in that area is going to grow up around those stitches, and you really don't want that. And so with the stitches out and land like that and hit that leg again, with the stitches having been out, the wound that had been stitched and was starting to grow together like it's supposed to, it split open. It opened up all the way. And that's all she wrote. That necessitated a trip to the emergency room, which ended up with me being checked into a hospital, where I spent another 3+ weeks, almost 4 weeks, while I was on another several-week run of antibiotics, because some infection had gotten started again, and you don't want that. So I had to stay in there with the IV antibiotics and get that healed up again, get the stitches, get the whole. They couldn't restitch it. I don't know exactly why, but they told me that it was at the point where they could not restitch it. Instead, they had to apply a wound vac to deal with it that way, with the vacuum kind of pulling the nasty gunk and whatnot out of the wound, and also working to pull it together and so on. And let's see. Oh, it's time to make boats. Okay. Grab this. There we go. And move onwards here. Getting towards the latter part, the second day here. And I'm just rattling on like crazy, ain't I? Anyway, so after another 3 weeks in the hospital, I get moved from the hospital to, well, in the hospital they referred to it as rehab. A place where I would be for a good 2 to 3 weeks, focusing on physical therapy and whatnot, you know, learning exercises to do to keep the strength up in the leg, to prevent muscle atrophy and whatnot, because you really don't want that to happen. And the idea there is keep me in shape for the eventual very desired result of getting a prosthetic. And that was all fine and dandy. And, well, it was theoretically fine and dandy. I was going nuts by the time I got out of there. And then yesterday was day to go home. And by going home, it means actually leaving the hospital, getting in the car with my sister as she drives me to a place that we now call home. And it's a fairly nice house. It's a 4-bedroom place. Kind of an old house, but it's in pretty good shape, considering it was built in like 1928. So that's cool. And there's plenty of room in here. And when she came to pick me up, she had already made an appointment with the folks from AT&T to get the internet installed. And what she told me was that she went for the top of the line AT&T Ultimate pack, Ultimate thing. And that's a $60 a month package. And apparently that includes fiber. Well, fiber's good for you. Keep you nice and regular. So my internet will be nice and regular. How about that? Ain't that a mess? Yeah. But, and then earlier today, that internet service was installed, activated. Now, it's working, and it's working great. And I've got something like, I did a test with speedtest.net when I first got things going. Once things were first going and I first got to the computer, speedtest.net tells me I'm getting something like roughly 25 up and 25 down, which is awesome all by itself. But I figure there's a reason for that, because I found it necessary to get out that, okay, the way that I have been connecting to my wireless router back in Arkansas all these years is I got this beautiful little gizmo from Netgear that it plugs into a USB port and it lets you connect to a Wi-Fi signal, which is great. And I had to get that out. You see, my original plan here was to go ahead and hook up a piece of Ethernet cable between the tower and the modem thing and do that. And that's what I wanted to do. That was the whole plan, because you get the best out of something like that when you're using an actual bit of cable instead of by Wi-Fi. And tried to start it up with the with the wired connection, with the actual Ethernet connection, and not getting anything. Like, eeny meeny, there ain't no mo. Ain't nothing happening. Don't know why. I've tried rebooting the computer, rebooting the modem, and so on. And at one point, I did get a message from Windows saying that it can't find a driver for that device, which is kind of goofballish. I didn't think something like that needed a driver. You know, you plug it into your Ethernet port on the computer, and it's just plug and play. Plug it in and it works. That's the way stuff like that has always been for me in the past. But I couldn't get it to go. Didn't find any immediate solution. Decided I didn't want to mess with it too much or take a bunch of time with it because I wanted to get connected and doing things, you know. And so I got out my Netgear USB Wi-Fi thing, and it still works. Plug it in, it catches the Wi-Fi signal, and everything's great. So I'm still doing really good with about 25 up and 25 down. And presumably the whole gigabit down and 35 megabits up and whatnot will be available at some point when I figure out why this thing doesn't want to talk through Ethernet and then get it working again. But even if that doesn't happen anytime too soon, it's still freaking awesome, because this is like, well, really, really fast. Like you take something really, really fast and grease it, and then amp it up and put it on overdrive or something, and yeah, that's what this feels like to me. This is very simply right now, I am working with the fastest internet connection I have ever experienced, and it is freaking awesome to say the very least. And I'm loving this. Yeah. So that's where I've been for the last 2 months. Not wanting to repeat the experience, let me promise you that. And so glad, so grateful to be home. It's not the same home I had, but it's a good one. And I have good company. And so on. And oh boy, I am just so glad this mess with the hospitals and the nursing home. And that was the thing. When I was in the hospital and they talked about sending me there, they just called it rehab. Now, I get the idea that nursing homes typically do have some rehab services. But when I found out that the place was actually just a nursing home, oh man, my blood ran cold. Because nursing home is not a place you want to go to. It's not a place you want to be in. My brother was in one a few years ago, about a year or so before he died, and he was 8 different kinds of miserable in there. And I was completely miserable in this place. It was a fight. It was a day-to-day, everyday fight just to get a decent mug of coffee. And yes, I have a coffee maker. My sisters made sure, Holly and Wendy both made sure that I have the ability to make coffee my way, the way I want it. And so I get good coffee anytime I want to. And no more of this ordering a bunch of little teeny micro cups of coffee and dumping them into the big thing just to have a decent mug of coffee. God, that was ridiculous. Especially when you order the coffee and you have to order 3 or 4 cups of coffee because they're using these little 3 or 4 ounce cups, micro cups. And you order them, you get it in there, and that's when you find out the coffee is cold. I mean, cold enough that it wouldn't even dissolve the powdered creamer, which is, oh man, that is vile. Really, that's nasty. But no more of that. I'm back to using milk in my coffee instead of powdered creamer. I'm still using the non-sugar sweetener, the stuff in the pink packets, and there's also a package with a bunch of packets of stevia in there, which I'm going to go ahead and try it, and I'll use up what I've got. But one of the things I'm going to have to do is find one of these these sugar-free sweeteners that actually comes in a box or a bag just like sugar, so that it is not necessary to deal with packets. I despise dealing with packets. It's like the sauces that you get at a lot of places, or even just ketchup and mustard packs. You know, the sauces and whatnot, like the sauce that you get, like the medium sauce that I like from Taco Bell, or the Arby's sauce and stuff like that. I love those sauces, but I absolutely hate dealing with those little packets because it's a royal pain in the butt. I can't just use my teeth to tear them open because my teeth have been going the way of the dinosaurs for probably a good 30 years now, and I don't have a whole lot of teeth left. All right, how are we doing here daytime wise? I think it's time to dig in. Yeah. Okay, go back, say 2 more. All right. Plug that up. Throw down a bed. Let's see. I got 3 boats. That's enough. I just need to make 3 beds. I need to get wood on the next time out. All right. Bed's made. I need wood and wool next time out. All right. Well, there we go. A new episode in the can, so to speak. All right. I am going to kick back and enjoy myself because it is so good having stuff working again. And some of it, like the internet, working better than it ever has. Thanks for watching. Take it easy. I am out of here.